It's the Mega Man, and nah, that doesn't stand for hate. We're just saying it's time for education to be great.
Hello everyone, this is Make Education Great Again. I'm your host Chris Morris. Today's topic is a little different than I typically do and cover because I had a dream last night about Donald Trump, and I believe it very well might be from the Lord. And so I'm going to open up today and share from the heart about what I experienced and just lay it out there before you guys. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. I think the Lord has given me some interpretation, at least some of the obvious manners, but I figure some of you guys might see some things, some nuances that I don't pick up, and it would be a good discussion. And I hope it's an encouragement to those of you guys who, especially those who belong to the body of Christ, who believe in Jesus. And this is more than just a typical political cycle for you. It's a stretch of your faith, and you're trying to hold on till the wheels fall off. And so this is going to be an encouragement to you guys. Let's get into this because I had a dream last night, and I don't think it's coincidence that today's date is 7/14/21. I'm going to say it again. Today's date is 7/14/21. And if you don't know much about Scripture, you'll know that God likes two numbers a whole lot. He likes the number 3 and he likes the number 7. 7 represents completion. That's why he created the world in 7 days. It stands for completion. It's good. 14 is double 7, so that's just like extra completion. And then I think 21, which is 3 sevens. 7 times 3 is 21. That's just, it's done, baby. So I think it's not a coincidence that I had this dream last night on 7/14/21. So anyway, let's get into this dream. I actually wrote it down, and I'm going to read a little bit from it today, and then you guys kind of just let me know your thoughts. This is a totally different direction than I typically do, but this doesn't happen to me, frankly, all the time, and I believe the Lord is trying to encourage those. So I'm just going to share it. So last night I had a dream. I'm going to read a little bit from my notes here. It says there are many cycles in this dream, but it ended on an interesting note. I was in an enormous building, almost like a tower. And so I think, who knows, maybe it signified Trump Tower. I remember being in a huge auditorium waiting for an event to end. As if you've ever been in like a big stadium and it's really hard. Everyone goes up the stairwells and they're trying to flood to get out. It was kind of like that. I was in a huge auditorium for an event, waiting for it to end and trying to figure out the best way to exit. There were several times that I needed to exit, but it was difficult because there were so many people in the stands. Eventually, my wife and I found a secret elevator that was kind of at the bottom of the stadium that we could use only if we had like the secret passcode that a lady would give us if we asked. And so we had to dig it out. It was kind of like we got exclusive access to exit this way. And my wife wanted to get home, quicker than most of the other people who were at the event. But then I would find myself in this building again, like an event was ending again. So all of a sudden I would get out of the building, and then next thing you know, you know how dreams are, in the dream sequence, I'm back in there. The event ended and I'm trying to exit again. And so there it is again. I needed to exit. It seemed like I took this alternate elevator to get out of this event, this stadium, this building, whatever it was, about 3 times with my wife. And then there was no more sequence. There was another sequence, and then I was back in the building again trying to get out by myself, and there were still tons of people. So there's like 3 times where I remember trying to navigate through here. Where's the best way to get out of here? I'm trying to go through here, and my wife's with me. We figure out this alternate route. And then finally, there's like a 4th sequence. I'm back in the building, but this time my wife's at home in bed with our children, and it's just me alone in this big building trying to get out. And so for some reason, she wasn't with me this last time, and she was at home in bed. This time I decided I might take a different route. Like a lot of people were going out the traditional way, up the stairs and through the, the main elevator exits, and I was curious to see if that would be quicker than the way I had been going. And so they were taking traditional elevators. I remember going up a stairwell, and this is where it gets interesting, guys. I remember going up a stairwell, and I suppose it was just kept going up the stairs. So I thought I was going towards elevators, but all of a sudden I found myself in a stairwell, and it was one of these like you see from the movies where you just kind of spiral up and up and up and up, and it gets higher and higher and higher. And so basically, as this stairwell got higher and higher, it got more narrow and narrow and narrow. And all of a sudden, there was like this shift in like what the whole purpose of this building was. All of a sudden, there was this awareness that we were all waiting to find out who the next president of the United States was going to be, who was officially going to be inaugurated and sealed with the stamp of approval that this was the president. Was it going to be Joe Biden, or was it going to be Donald Trump? And what's interesting is when I got to a certain part of the tower, I was very high up. The stairwell had, what do you call them? Handrails, when you put your hand around it when you're walking upstairs. On the railing where I was initially, it had Biden, the words Biden written all around the stairwell. So it went up and up and up and up and up. It said Biden, 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 Biden. Kind of like when you have like, wrapping paper, they'll have the same design printed all over the wrapping paper. Well, all along the handrails was the word Biden going up and around and around and around and higher to the top of this tower. And people who were Trump supporters like me were kind of getting depressed, like, oh no, look, it's even showing it's Biden. He's going to be the rolling out the red carpet. It's going to be Biden. And all of a sudden I got like a text message or some inside tip from somebody who said to me personally, hey, it's not what you think. It looks like it's going to be Biden, but at the last second, Trump's going to be inaugurating himself. He's actually going to be the president. Hang in there. I got this little tip, and I don't even remember if it was a text message or an envelope, but somehow it got to me when I'm going up these stairs. So as I am going up the stairs, here's what's interesting. People are starting to kind of just be like, you know what, forget this. I'm out. And they're leaving the stairwell early before they get to the top. It's like they're giving up. And so there's droves of people who just didn't continue. Maybe they thought Biden was going to be inaugurated the president, and so they decided they're not going to continue to go up. They're done with it. They exited, and only a few people kept going up and up and up and up this stairwell. And so here's where it gets really interesting. When we got to maybe the last 2-3 floors or so, and you're almost to the very top of the tower, all of a sudden the handrails that were saying Biden all around it shifted, and it started saying Trump. So in the last 2 or 3 floors, you just saw Trump, 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 Trump written all over the handrails that were going up the stairs to the top of this tower. So I'm like, wow, why does that say Trump at the very top, right? So I get to the top of the, of this stairwell, and I get into this building, and sure enough, we're in this room, and there's not as many people. It's more of an exclusive group of people. It seemed more like you were almost in a church. Like you had pews, and I remember sitting in the front row, I want to say, of the churchish looking building, and it was very different looking than like a typical U.S. president inauguration. In other words, up front where they were having the official proceedings, everything looked more like royalty. So there's a lot of gold trim everywhere. The seat that the person who was going to officially announce who the new president was going to be, it looked more like a throne than it did, a U.S. election president, what you're used to seeing. And there was gold trim everywhere. All of a sudden, I hear a voice. I'm not saying it was the voice of God, in my dream at this point, but I heard someone announce, ladies and gentlemen, the president of the United States. They didn't say the former president. They just said the president of the United States. Well, out comes Donald Trump from like behind the curtain in the front when he pronounces this. And he's dressed, it's weird, like almost like in robes, gold trim. Maybe there was some purple there. It's kind of hazy for me, that particular. But like I said, it seemed more like he was like a king coming out versus like an elected official. And he's sitting on this chair that kind of looks throne-ish, right? And then they put out something next to him. Typically, you have the Bible, and the person lays their hand on the Bible, and they swear in, right? Well, whatever this device or this pillow or something, it was gold. It was laid in gold trim as well. It was supposed to be where the person swearing themselves in was going to put their hand and, become the official next president. So I'm sitting there, and it's weird because I had this faith this time. As I remember going up the stairwell, I was already starting to believe that Trump was actually going to end up being the president after all, before having seen it. So I had this increased faith, even more so than I feel like I've had in really all year, to be honest with you. And so he's out there, and I didn't know 100% if he was going to swear in Biden. It was like he was handing the gauntlet over. If he was about to hand it over to Biden and call him the official president, or if he was going to swear in himself. You couldn't really tell yet. So there's a suspense. Well, all of a sudden, Donald Trump opens his mouth, and a man comes in, and it almost looked like it was Biden, but it was hard to see. And I was like, uh-oh, what's going to happen? And Donald Trump says, ladies and gentlemen, I officially swear in myself. And he says, this is what happens in my dream. He says, I swear in myself, I'm actually the re-inaugurated president of the United States, Joe Biden. And here's what's interesting. I can't remember if he said he was taken out, like killed, or just detained, but he started naming like Biden's administration, all these other people were put away with. And he said the white hats were in control, and the white hats basically took down this elite system, and that he even warned us after he inaugurated himself. He said there's going to be retaliation, that, whether here's a reference like BLM Antifa types who are going to really try to cause some chaos. There's going to be a lot of contentious, violent moments, but we have won. Be prepared for the retaliation. It was something along those lines. And I remember being so excited when I saw Donald Trump, in fact, was the one being reinstated as the president, being like, yeah. I was so excited that the person next to me was like, shh, you got to quiet down. We can't hear him. I was like, I can't help it. This is so great, And then, that's how the dream, for the most part, ended, and I woke up. So that was a very particular dream. I hadn't dreamed anything like that I can think of ever. And I was really like, it was a different feel for me personally, because I'm learning how to, hear the quiet voice of God a little bit more. I've heard God speak to me in different ways, but this was interesting. Like, even certain parts in the dream, I remember like praying and asking God, like, what does this mean? And I felt like all of a sudden I had the answer just kind of in my head. So if I'm going back to the stairwell, right, when we're going up, and for a while there, it's looking like Biden's on the handrails all the way up, and then you see this whole drove of people who are maybe disenfranchised, and they're like, oh, I'm so tired of this, and they're getting off the stairwell before they get a chance to see the end. And I felt like, as I was rereading my notes on the dream, I felt like I heard the Lord say that represents people who are getting off, the train, so to speak. The people who are lacking faith, that aren't hanging in there. The prophets were wrong, this was wrong. They're leaving early, and their faith's dwindling, and they're checking out. Only the few people hung in there, essentially, till the wheels fall off. And so I don't really think I could have thought of that, honestly, knowing myself. That wasn't an interpretation that I was going to, in and of myself, come up with, but it kind of made some sense. And then sure enough, as you hung on, those who hung on and kept going up the stairs a little longer, all of a sudden the railing changed, and it said Trump, 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 Trump all the way around. And it was interesting. I don't know. I've heard different people what gold signifies in the royalty, but I think it's God doing it, not really man and man's processes doing it. But anyway, so that was my dream. I thought I'd share it with you guys because it's really encouraging. I mean, even almost prophetic sounding in certain ways when he talks about, hey, when I'm put back in place, be prepared. These people aren't going to go down easy. It's going to be some blowback. And I've heard, people say as much, but that was my dream. Tell me what you guys think about it in the comments below. I know that could be heavy. You might just write that off. Chris, you've been eating so many weird things. Something's going on. Dreams are dreams. Y'all might think that, and that's perfectly fine with you, with me. But I can't help but I know how I was feeling in the dream, and the tone of it, and the taste and the flavor of it was a little different. And even this morning when I wrote down the dream and was rereading it, it's like I kept getting hit with these almost like interpretations of different scenes, and even seeing the date today, 7/14/21, that's its completion. It's the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, and they're each multiples of 7, and there's 3 of them that are multiples of 7, and I could just feel like God's hand on it. So I've been saying that for the longest, the summer of justice is here, and I think heaven is speaking. If you disagree with me or agree with me, whatever, I'd love to hear your thoughts or maybe your interpretation in the comments below. I know this is a little different tone, but I felt like I'd share it with you guys. It was fresh. It was on my mind and in my heart, and I hope it will be an encouragement to some of you guys who your faith is getting faint, and it looks like you just can't hold on much longer, and you're ready to be like, oh, no, I'm done with this. Hang on. God has a surprise in the end. So anyway, as always, like, subscribe, share, but I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
It's the Mega Man, and nah, that doesn't stand for hate. We're just saying it's time for education to be great. And if we keep on doing everything that we've been doing, it will no longer be our freedom that we're pursuing. It's now time to teach our students how to think and reason. If we don't, we'll keep on electing those guilty of treason. So listen up, as Mega Man is about to spit the truth. Gotta stop the powers that are coming after the youth.